Eric and the Legion, Episode 1, or Saturn Girl is Still in Your Club, Cosmic Boy. Hi, and welcome to Eric and the Legion. This show is modeled after the famous Tom Cater's Tom versus the Flash, Tom versus the JLA, Tom versus Aquaman run, and I'm going to be doing some Legion stories. Now, I'm using the DC Archive Editions Legion of Superheroes, Volume 1, and going chronologically through as many Legion stories as I can. We're going to start with the very beginning. In Adventure Comics number 247, titled The Legion of Superheroes, written by Otto Binder with art by Al Plastino. Now before I begin, some of you might be wondering, why Legion of Superheroes? I picked the Legion of Superheroes because their stories are often very weird and very quirky, and I think they epitomize what makes the Silver Age so great. They're fun, they're funny, even when they actually intend to be funny, and not just to make fun of. I think they're genuinely cool stories. I think they're really interesting, and they're all around just a good time. Why don't I do a more popular team? Well, Tom already took care of the Justice League. I could do the George Perez Teen Titans, but I feel like at that point you're moving into the Bronze Age of comics, where things got a little more serious, and I personally love the Silver Age. I think that the Silver Age is how comics should always be. I mean, they were written for children originally, but what makes them so great is that they're so lighthearted, and most of them are one-and-done kind of things. You don't have to have an entire 3-year run just to understand the story that's currently happening. One other important thing to note, and another key reason why I love the Legion, is they are from the future. They're time travelers. They come from the 30th century. Now, we're going to see in some later issues that they kind of change when they come from. Sometimes they say 30th century, sometimes they say 21st century, which isn't that far away, but they still have all this crazy future technology. But I love time travel. I think it's great as a concept, and it's cool because these heroes were so inspired by Superman, and then they go back in time to have adventures with Superman, and I think it's a really fun idea, a really fun concept. But enough about all that. Let's get into the actual issue. So, Adventure Comics number 247, entitled The Legion of Superheroes. The splash page that starts everything off shows Superboy trying to save what appears to be a crashed rocket, and 3 teens flying around on jetpacks dealing with it themselves. We see a boy who has magnetic eyes pulling away the rocket. We see a boy with lightning powers shooting the ray gun on the rocket, and we see a girl reading the pilot's minds. So we start in Smallville with Clark Kent as Superboy. Now, a lot of people know Superboy as the clone of Superman, but this, back in the Silver Age, the Superboy stories were about Clark Kent back when he lived in Smallville and he was just a teenager. So we see Clark Kent walking down the street, and a young boy waves to him and says, "Hi, Superboy." And he finds it very strange that he knows that he's Superboy. And then he switches into his Superboy outfit to go on patrol later that day, and another boy waves to him and greets him as Clark Kent, which he finds very odd, because he's convinced now that his secret has gotten out to everyone, and everyone knows that Clark Kent is Superboy. As he's still reeling from this fact, he goes to land in a park, and a girl mentions Mr. and Mrs. Kent, Ma and Pa Kent, and tells them to wish them well. And Superboy just can't believe it. But then you see that they're kind of joking, and they take off their civilian clothes to reveal their costumes underneath, and we see their names for the first time. We see Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Boy, the original founding members of the Legion of Superheroes. They mention that they're from the future and that they're a member of a superhero club, and they want to bring Superboy into the future to install Superboy as an honorary member of the club. So he gets into the time bubble, which is literally a glass sphere that shoots through time. And we see these numbers come up, 1958, 1960, 1975, 2000, and it starts picking up speed, 2100, 2200, 2500. And then suddenly they are arriving in Smallville in the 30th century. And we see a robot picking up trash with one of those poking stick things in a park. So it appears that they have litter in the future, but they've got robots to take care of it. We get this really cool shot of Superboy with the 3 Legionnaires flying over Smallville 1,000 years in the future. And it looks just really cool, that really awesome 50s idea of what the future was going to be. Everything's got like glass domes, and a lot of it's very rounded corners, and everything's saucer shaped. All the crafts are saucer shaped. And they pass by a building that appears to give satellite tours around the world in 80 minutes. Now there's a Flash story that's around the world in 80 hours, I think. So this thing moves faster than the Flash, presumably, which that's pretty incredible because Flash is the fastest man on Earth. They also stop at an ice cream parlor, and the sign in the ice cream parlor reads 9 delicious flavors from 9 planets, and Superboy makes a dumb pun about how the ice cream is out of this world. Then they move on, and we see this scene of a classroom in which a Superboy robot is being demonstrated to a class about all of Superboy's amazing powers. And the real Superboy shows up with the Legion, and the robot seems to be malfunctioning, so Superboy himself acts out his superpowers for the class. They then move on to go to the superhero club of the Legion of Superheroes, where we see them. They're sitting there at the table, and on these cards it shows what their powers are, and they tell Superboy that they only induct membership if you compete against 3 members. So Superboy now has to compete against Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Boy. And first up is Saturn Girl. And his task against Saturn Girl is to dig up a statue of the unknown spaceman from the ocean, apparently. It's at the bottom of the sea. And so he rushes off against Saturn Girl, and Superboy thinks it's going to be no problem. He's got all the powers. She's got 1 power, and all she can do is mind control. So he's got this in the bag. He flies off, but he notices that the robot that was in the classroom is running away, and it's going to wreak havoc on the town. So he goes and he stops this robot by bringing it back into the school, where the teacher shoots it with a nuclear ray. I'm not sure that that's safer to have around children, but maybe in the future they're immune to radiation. But we see Saturn Girl flying over the ocean and shooting a mental being down into the ocean where many huge creatures live. And this panel I can't stop laughing at because it's so funny. You see the mental beam, and written in the mental beam it says, "Swim up with the statue, obey me." And this sea monster has this look on its face like, "Oh my god, I can't believe what I'm hearing." It's just, I think it's the funniest expression I've ever seen on a creature. But when Superboy arrives on the scene, we see that the sea monster has already brought the statue up to the surface. And he realizes that Saturn Girl has beat him, and he takes the statue back to a museum, and then they go back to the clubhouse. And at the clubhouse, Cosmic Boy pulls a dick move by saying, "You lost out on your first task, and to a girl." Now, Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl is standing right next to you. She's in your superhero club. Why would you say that in front of her? That's super mean. Why would you say that at all? Is the future sexist? I guess the 50s future is. But anyway, Superboy's next task is to deal with a crashed rocket that's crashed into the forest. Now don't worry, we're informed here that the crew and the passengers escaped with their flying jetpacks, so that's good. But now the forest is on fire. And Cosmic Boy and Superboy are going to compete on who can put out the fire. And Superboy goes, no problem. Cosmic Boy's got magnetism. Doesn't have anything to do with fires. I'll take care of it. He'll lose. And as they're flying off, Superboy notices an old satellite falling from space. We see that it's U.S. Project Vanguard. I'm not sure if that's a real satellite that the U.S. launched into space or not. But Superboy says it's out of commission, so he takes the satellite and throws it into a volcano like a basketball. Why not bring this satellite to the museum where you brought the statue of the unknown spaceman? I mean, come on, Superboy. You're just going to throw away artifacts into a volcano? He throws it like a basketball into this volcano. And then we see that Cosmic Boy has pulled down iron meteorites to crash into a lake and overflow the lake and flood the forest. Now, I'm not sure what kind of irreparable damage this caused to millions of habitats in this forest, but, I mean, technically Cosmic Boy has won, Superboy has lost, so they go back to the clubhouse, and Superboy notices, damn, that's two I've lost. Now my last chance is going to be beating Lightning Boy. We find out that their challenge is that the Nova Express rocket has left for Mars, but it's leaking fuel, and they need to notify this spaceship so it can turn around. As they're flying off, Superboy notices an invisible eagle of Neptune, which has escaped from the interplanetary zoo. So Superboy thinks this is going to be a problem. This thing could crash into a rocket, or a rocket could crash into it, rather, and cause a disaster. So Superboy grabs an iceberg and floats it around the air where he thinks the eagle is, and apparently the frost works like frosted glass, and now they can see the invisible eagle, and he takes it back to the interplanetary zoo. But in the meantime, Lightning Boy has solved his task by writing with lightning in the sky, "Ahoy Nova Express, your fuel tank is leaking, return for repairs." That's a pretty big message to write with lightning in the sky. I'm not sure how long this lightning lingers. Also, this message in the panel is freaking gigantic. It looks like it's the size of North America. How did he create this much lightning? And how long is it going to stay just floating in space? Well, apparently it's good enough. They come back. The Legion's kind of giving them a hard time. They're saying, oh, you're rejected from the Legion. You lost. And we see this awesome panel of Superboy crying, which the art is really hilarious in. It looks really funny. But then they stop him and they say, no, you're actually a member. You passed all of our tasks. We're just joking, and it was all an initiation. So then we see a little kind of flashback where Saturn Girl has told the robot to run away. Cosmic Boy has pulled this satellite from orbit, and Lightning Boy has created a hole in the wall of the zoo for the eagle to fly out of. Now, is this eagle a dangerous creature? That seems like a terrible idea. All of these seem like terrible ideas, but Superboy thinks it's funny. They say it was all just a joke, and they all cheer him on. Hooray for Superboy. But before he goes, Superboy realizes that there's a disaster because a giant heat lamp in the South Pole is falling. It's falling over, and Superboy says, no problem, I'll handle it. He grabs a magnetic rock and pushes the tower back straight, and then he causes some heat lightning to warm up the South Pole until the lamp is fixed. And then back at the clubhouse, he says, I bet you're wondering why I didn't just use my superpowers to solve all of this. And before anyone can really say anything, he said, I did it because I'm impersonating your powers. And Saturn Girl laughs, and she's like, oh, you read my mind. And it was all like his little joke to the Legion in return for the tricks that they played on him. The last panel is Superboy feeling pretty stoked because he has a badge that says Superhero #1 that he's showing to Pa Kent. And that's it. That's the end of our first Legion story. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks!